It's 12 noon. We're live on City Line. Hi, I'm Jackie Hall.
And I'm B.T. Bentley. In some people's minds, the epidemic of crack and cocaine in the United States is our country's #1 drug problem.
It's wrecked careers, broken homes, invaded schools, caused crimes, and it's killed thousands.
As a nation and as a community, can we shut off the supply with stronger legislation geared at the producers and pushers?
Or do we try to shrink the demand with education and drug testing?
Now, in crisis proportions, the real battle against drugs has just begun. Not only for those of us who don't use, but for users as well.
Coming up on Newscap, a religious rationalization for racism. I'm Isis Arabay.
Is it wedding bells for Harold Anthony and Whitney Houston? Find out when I fill you in on all the juicy details on today's entertainment page.
Are coke and crack as highly addictive as researchers claim? We'll find out as we hear the traumas and triumphs of four whose lives were once perilous to these drugs high.
Join us as we explore our nation's crack and cocaine crisis here live on City Line.
Good afternoon and welcome to this Sunday's edition of City Line. Harold and Whitney Houston, huh? Wow. I'll be interested to see about that.
That's another show and another story. But today's show is, for the most part, an extremely serious topic, and it's about crack and cocaine, which, as we know, crack is really just a very highly potent form of cocaine.
That's right. We've assembled a gathering of individuals who have experiences from both sides, either as former drug users or those who help drug users beat the habit.
Okay, we'd like now to introduce our panelists, and we have assembled 6 persons here today to talk about the whole issue of crack and cocaine and its effect on our community. First guest is Lillian Brooks, who is a coordinator of XL Incorporated, which is a drug treatment program.
Yes.
Welcome to City Line.
Thank you.
Next, we have Hubert Wingate, who started at 9 years old on PCP, crack, and some other drugs as well. Welcome to City Line.
Thank you.
Next to Hubert is Adam Gaines, who started using cocaine and some other drugs at the age of 12. And as he said, he got high every single day. Welcome to City Line, Adam.
Thank you.
Next is Teddy Henry, a recovering crack and cocaine user, mother of 1. And seated next to her is Dr. Robert McDaniel, who is a chemical dependency treatment and recovery specialist. Not on the set, but with us today is a gentleman we'll refer to as Bill. Bill is a former professional football player who has agreed to share with us some of his experiences. We want to thank all of you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Crack and cocaine. It's something that has been in the headlines for, I guess, the last year or two. Has it reached really epidemic proportions? I'm going to ask you, Dr. McDaniel, has it really reached epidemic proportions?
I think that if you really look at the cocaine use scale, it's sort of still ascending limb, and that in fact we haven't reached a plateau yet, so that it looks like cocaine use is still probably increasing in general.
And this is something that really does cut across all socioeconomic lines.
Yeah, it really does. In addition to the XL program, I'm associated with 4 other treatment programs. And I would say in the last 3 years, the incidence of cocaine use has just about replaced all other types of drug use or is used in association with other drugs. Very unusual today to see a pure addict, but if you're going to see someone who is a pure chemical dependent person, the likelihood is that that drug is going to be cocaine.
Why, after all of the news and the reports and the testimonies of the devastation of crack and cocaine, why would anyone get involved with it?
Well, I think you need to look at cocaine use as probably being several stages, and the last stage being addiction to that drug. I'm sure that some of the younger members here can tell you what their experiences early in life were like. A lot of that may have to do with peer pressure. But in general, I believe, and my experience would sort of indicate, that once people begin experimenting with cocaine, it's very difficult to jump off the train at that point and to stop using. It's a very addictive substance.
Adam, let's start with you. Was it indeed peer pressure that got you started at the age of 12?
Peer pressure, and also looking at negative role models. People having a lot of material things. And I didn't realize what it took to get that. You know, I seen them having money, having cars, didn't realize what they was into. And then I wanted to be into it. So then I started sticking my nose in a lot of things. And then I was like forced to get into it, but after being forced, I liked it.
What about you, Teddy?
Peer pressure, but mainly I think my first experience, it's so good. There's a little voice inside that says you're killing yourself and you know it, but it's just so good. So it's a very powerful drug.
Hubert, did you begin, from which side did you begin? You eventually actually wound up doing some dealing in drugs, didn't you?
Well, I started, you know, first mainly by drinking at 9 because people used to give it to me. And then I started cocaine basically out of curiosity, you know, seeing other people do it, some peer pressure. And then I started liking cocaine a lot, so I started snorting and got into basing. And then I guess I dealt cocaine because I could get it more like that, and then for selling it for people, you know, they'd give me some, you know, and it was a good way to make money, you know, and then I could get it all the time, so I always was around it, so it was available for me.
Real quickly, can I just add something?
Sure.
Hubert just used some terminology that maybe the audience doesn't know. Cocaine's the kind of drug that you can use any one of 3 ways. You can do what's called snorting, which is placing it in your nose. You can use it intravenously, or you can further chemically process it to a form called freebase. And so the terminology is basing, and that means smoking a very pure form of cocaine.
Okay. Bill, let's bring you into the discussion. Did your cocaine use begin before or after your professional career?
Well, excuse me, my cocaine use began when I was a freshman in college. How I got involved in cocaine was I was introduced to heroin first. And I was afraid of heroin because heroin was thought to be addictive and cocaine was thought to be non-addictive during the time that I first started.
Okay. And was there no pressure on you when you reached the pro ranks to give it up, or was the pressure actually to continue?
Well, to be quite honest with you, once I reached the pro ranks is when my addiction really progressed to a stage that it became uncontrollable. What I found is that a lot of professional athletes were using cocaine. It was thought to be the rich man's high. You know, it was like a status symbol. If you could afford cocaine and you could use cocaine as frequently as you wanted to, you were like a big man among the athletes and among the fans and what have you.
Now, Teddy referred to cocaine as a real good feeling, a good feeling. Was that true for you as well, Bill?
As a matter of fact, yes. The first time that I used cocaine, I didn't really experience any kind of feeling. It kind of hit me. I was playing athletics in college, and what happened was after the game, you know, I would come after the game and everybody else would be ready to party and everything, and I would be tired. So someone said, here, why don't you try this? This will pick you up. You'll be ready to party like the rest of us. And I enjoyed it because it allowed me to be high. It also allowed me to be high around other people and them not knowing that I was high because it didn't have any odor like marijuana. It didn't leave me depressed and what have you. So, and it was a good feeling. I became much more talkative because I was basically a shy person. And I became much more talkative when I used cocaine and more outgoing.
Okay, we're going to get into some more of the experiences of our guests and find out a little bit more about the treatment that's taking place. Right now, we've got to take a break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Crack and cocaine and its impact on our community and in the lives of the users as well. We'd like to invite our our home audience into our discussion by calling us at 481-1313 right now if you have questions or comments or experiences you'd like to share with us. Let's, Lillian of XL Incorporated, you've been listening, you've been sitting through the first segment and hearing what our guests are saying. What impression does it have on you, and is this the true story that generally comes through your program?
Yes, it certainly is. When you ask Dr. McDaniels about why people use it, I always say that if I ask 15 different people, I get 15 different reasons because it's kind of individual. But basically, it is a lot of peer pressure, and then, of course, like you said, once it's used, it seems it's so good, you know, why give it up? We have juveniles at our program, we have adults, and then now we have this new cocaine unit, 28-day. Each unit stays crowded, overcrowded. As a matter of fact, as far as the long-term unit, we have already closed our intake department.
Let me ask you, as compared to other drugs, what kind of success rate is there with cocaine abuse? I mean, is it something that you have a lot of success with? Does it depend wholly on the individual? What kind of things are we looking at?
Well, for the most part, it does depend on the individual. Since cocaine has just become an everyday, everybody drug recently, we haven't got as many statistics on it as we had in the past on the other drugs. It has been our experience that the older the individual, usually the easier it is to treat because they're just tired. And when you're tired, you'll quit. Cocaine now, of course, is with so many young people. We haven't really got the statistics on that as yet.
How young in your program, I just need to ask?
Well, the juveniles, I believe, take them from 13 to 18, and we've had them that young.
Okay, now let's get back to Hubert and Teddy and Adam. You talked about how young you were at 9 and 12 years old starting with drugs. How did you function? How did you go through a day high or demanding drugs?
Well, really, to me, it was a good feeling. It's like kept me motivated, kept me going. And once I started getting farther into using it, it was like I needed to have it. You know, I was willing pretty much to do anything to get it. And
such as what?
You know, I'd steal stuff out the house and, you know, break in things, you know, pretty much anything to get it, you know, and, you know, it led into getting locked up and, you know, stuff like that. But basically, once you're using it, you don't really care about all those things because you're not just, you know, as long as I got it, that's all I really cared about. So I do practically anything to get it.
Now, Adam, at 12, what about you?
Okay, I look at it like this. I never went into stealing, but because my parents always gave it to me, money-wise. And being around older people, they seen me with money, then they encouraged them or to pull a wool over my eyes and say, well, you can be with us. And being high all the time, it felt good because I used to tell my mom, well, I got hit in the eye playing basketball, pollen got my eye. I was always silly, giggled at everything. They never took a lot of things seriously because...
Okay, but what about the downside of that? You felt good, but what about when you came down from it? We don't want to, you know, be here saying, well, it just felt good, it was a good feeling.
Well, the feelings you get when you come down, you feel like you don't feel like yourself. It's like the high then became a part of you. And when you can't get high, you get frustrated, your attitude jumps. And really, I felt like with my situation, I didn't want to be bothered with anybody if I couldn't be high.
Teddy, at what point did you realize you had a problem? How long were you using the drug before you realized you had a problem?
I didn't realize I had a problem until I started freebasing. I had no control over my life. I was basically living to use and using to live. It made it easier for me to forget things I didn't want to remember. On my come down, as we say, it was pure misery. I didn't want to live. I never wanted to come down. I'd stay up for 6-7 days. And that way, when I did go to sleep, I'd basically fall out. Or I'd take several Valiums, whatever I could, to quickly go to sleep so that I wouldn't have to, because when you're coming down off of cocaine, you think about everything. I couldn't handle it.
Okay. We're going to take a call from our audience at home. Hello, you're live on City Line.
Hi, caller. You're on the air. Hello, caller. Okay, we have a problem there.
Bill, let me ask you, in the right, you indicated that it seemed to be almost the accepted thing at the time that you were in the pro ranks. With all that has been said and supposedly done in the last couple of years, do you still feel that it is quite frequently used among professional athletes?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm sure it is pretty frequently used because I still have friends that are still using it that play professional athletics. But I think also the problem that you have with drugs and cocaine is that when you're in the big time, so to speak, you're used to that fast lifestyle, fast things, fast cars, fast women. And what happens is cocaine it's like it kind of enhances a person's feeling for freedom. You feel as though you're free to do anything. On the downside of that is that you find a lot of guys whose careers are ruined, such as myself. My career was ruined because of cocaine use, because the whole time that I played, every year that I played professional football, I was injured. You find that you start taking certain things for granted. For instance, I thought that I didn't have to practice, that I didn't have to go to meetings, and that all I had to do was show up for the game, and that I would be Mr. Wonderful. You find out very quickly that, sure, your body can camouflage certain changes that it's going through, but it always comes at true test when it goes up man against man, when it's true athletic competition.
Bill, when did you realize that you needed help and that you were no longer in control and having a good time on drugs?
Well, I realized that, I guess, my rookie year. During my rookie year, I was injured, and I had a lot of free time. When I was in college, I had made promises to friends that, yeah, when I play pro ball, we're going to come up and we're going to have all the cocaine that we want, and we're going to just get high as we want to get, not realizing that we would become drug addicts. And when I did make it to the professional ranks, that's exactly what I did. I invited a lot of friends up, and I used cocaine constantly. And then I started realizing that the things that were important to me as far as like athletics, my family, and my friends became unimportant to me very quickly. And I started lying and cheating, and I'd never been that type of person. I had just totally lost myself. And so then what I tried to do then was try to camouflage what I was doing and just and put up an image that I was Mr. Great and Mr. Wonderful.
Okay, we will continue our discussion on City Line with reference to coke and crack and cocaine. And you can continue to call us at 481-1313. We'll be back in just a moment.
Now, here's this week's community calendar.
Hello, my name is Joseph Jones Jr. I'm a member of Excel, a drug rehabilitation program, the only program in the Maryland area that has a juvenile unit. Excel also has a long-term unit which is all adults and a 28-day cocaine unit. Our programs are free for all who are seeking help. On July 19th, Excel is having a graduation at UMBC with Wes Unseld as the host. It begins at 1:00 p.m. Everyone is cordially invited. For more information, call Excel at 788-2145.
Hello, my name is Sister Mary Alice Chenoweth. On August 2nd, the Oblate Sisters of Providence will host alumni and friends at the annual homecoming celebration at Mount Providence. The day's events will begin at 1 p.m. There will be numerous attractions, fast foods, and a social hour. Dinner will be served from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. in Sacred Heart Hall. Tickets are $6 and must be purchased that day. Friends and relatives as well as alumni are welcome. For more information, call 247-4776.
If your group or organization would like to announce an event, please write us in care of Cityline, WJZ-TV, Television Hill, Baltimore, Maryland, 21211. Or call us for further information at 466-0013 between the hours of 9 and 5. Welcome back live to Cityline. We're talking about crack and cocaine, and we have a very experienced, I should say, group of guests here who are sharing their experiences with us and are helping us out. And right now, we'd like to offer our studio audience a chance to ask questions. Would you like to stand, please? You have a question? Just face, don't worry about that. Just ask your question.
All right. I'm Esther Wright, and I'd like to ask the question of Teddy.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you, how much cocaine would you have to take to stay up high for 6 days, as you had mentioned?
All day. And to give you an amount, an estimated amount, the best I can estimate is a quarter of an ounce, maybe. That was on a daily basis.
In terms of dollar figures, how much were you spending?
For $4,000.
How often?
This was in the beginning of my addiction. Later on, I, of course, found ways to not have to spend money. But this was, I've been getting high for 16 years, so this was all the time.
How did you fund this kind of habit? How did you get the money for it?
I had to use my wits. I've basically done anything imaginable.
You prefer not to say what it is?
I would have to get some type of feedback, because when I say anything imaginable, I mean just that.
Okay, okay. Let's take another question.
I would like to ask y'all, once y'all continue Excel, what do y'all have planned to do with y'all future? What kind of jobs and things y'all want to live y'all life?
Well, I can probably answer that.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
You know, I've been out of Excel, I guess, a month and a half now. And since I've been out of Excel, I've landed a job. I work for a large $5 billion company now. That's a national company. I'm an account executive for this company. And it's only through my graduation or my participation in Excel has helped me to get in touch with the type of person that I really am. See, what you have to realize about drug addicts and drug use is that it's a disease of feelings and behavior. And we all have problems dealing with our behavior and our feelings. And being at Excel, it helps point out your behavior to you. And all people at Excel do is they point out your behavior to you and try to help you respond to some what they call character defects. And I have a lot of character defects that I needed to work on. But since I've gone through the program, they have a saying at Excel: we're going to give you what you need, not what you want. And that's what they do, because since I've been out of Excel, I've been in jail. I've been incarcerated for about 10 days. I've had all kinds of financial problems. And a lot of times people think that once they stop using drugs, that everything's going to be rosy and peachy, but it's not really that way. It's a lifelong addiction. It's a lifelong struggle. But you know, when you go into a treatment center like Excel or something, what you want to do is it's a start for you. It helps you get your life started all over again. It's like being born again.
Okay, let's ask Lillian about that whole approach in terms of giving you what you need.
That's exactly what we do. We're not concerned about your wants, because it seems that for 16 years or whatever it is, you've been taking care of those wants and neglecting your needs. As far as what to do after you leave the program, we have a full-time school. We have a GED program. Quite a few people have gotten their GED since they were there. We have someone who comes in and signs people up to further the education. They're tested. Some people are sent out to vocational rehabilitation, or depending on what that particular need is and what they want. But you get job readiness training. You get all types of training to prepare you, because you're taught that you've been in there for X amount of time, but the world has been the same on the outside. You have changed, but not the rest of the world.
Now let me ask, speaking of changes, even though you're talking about sociological changes and so forth, but what about those body changes? And Dr. McDaniel, how difficult is it for it to get the body to stop yearning for that pleasure drug?
It is, while Lillian was talking, I was thinking about that. Cocaine appears to be the kind of drug that it's very difficult to cut down that initial craving and compulsion. Right now, across the country, people are looking at, let me stop right there. Part of the reason for that is the fact that cocaine induces biochemical changes in the brain. And so we know, for instance, that some of the neurotransmitter substances are depleted, and that the depletion, number one, can cause depression. So it's not at all unusual, as Teddy sort of described, when people stop using, to feel real depressed for periods of time afterward. So right now, medically, I would say there are about 3 drugs, one of which is called amantadine, one of which is called bromocriptine, and the other one of which is lithium, all of which are being looked at to see if they might offer some initial treatment advantages, because a part of the relapse picture with cocaine is the fact that within, let's say, the first several months, the brain hasn't biochemically restored itself enough for people to come back to even keel. So that's a major problem.
Okay, let's try a call from home now. Hi, caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I'm on the air now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I have a question dealing with Excel, the policies. When
Hello?
Caller?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're having some
Hello?
difficulty, but...
Hello, can you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, go ahead. Just go ahead with your question.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay.
Okay, we're having some trouble. We're sorry about that, but hold on, we'll try to repair that.
But anyway, I wanted to say something about, you were saying, like, do you still get the feeling? Because I've been in Excel now for 8 months, you know, and like I go home on pass and the feeling is still there, you know, and at Excel it teaches us to overcome our feelings, you know, and like with me, I have a problem with being bored if I'm bored, you know, and that's what a lot of started me using drugs too, not finding something to do with my time. You know, and the feeling for, you know, a drug addict, it's always going to be there for it. You know, because when I go by liquor stores or see someone else using, you know, I still get the feeling.
What is the feeling? Now,
I mean,
Teddy mentioned a voice, but what's the feeling?
With me, you know, it's like I can just, you know, I remember how good it was. Because, you know, like I'm probated to Excel, and when I first went to Excel, you know, I wouldn't admit that I had a problem or I was tired of using it. I had to go. You know, now since I've been in Excel, it's all changed because, you know, I've done so many positive things like finished school in Excel. And, you know, it's just the feeling that you remember, kind of remember how it was, you know, and you kind of overlook the problems that went with it, but you just remember how good the high was. You know, and I still get that feeling. I probably will, you know, for a while.
Like, before, I've been in Excel 8 months also, and I go home and stay home overnight, every other night. And me and my mom was just talking about what kind of feelings do you come across. And I haven't came across not too many feelings about it because I feel as though I'm strong enough not to want to do it anymore. But the other day, I was in a call with a guy and I was talking about me being in Excel, and he said, light up the joint. And the feeling came over me. It gave me a big head rush. And I just told him, pull to the side of the road and let me out. Because I don't feel as though I can stay around it and take it. And then you have, being in Excel, a lot of people don't feel good about themselves. Because if we felt good about ourselves, we wouldn't have did drugs.
Okay, Teddy?
Surprisingly enough, throughout my addiction, I was convinced that I would never stop using cocaine. Loved it. But since I've been in Excel, I haven't even, I'm really surprised because the said feeling hasn't come over me. I'm so overwhelmed with me and what I've really done with my mind and my life, and just realizing that it's not too late for me, that I do have another chance, and that once you hit that low point or you realize that you need help, you should take that first step. They say the hardest part is the first step. I would suggest that we take it.
I'd like to add something to that.
Go ahead, bro.
You know, they say that drug addicts, we have a problem dealing with our feelings. And that's why you hear everybody talking about feelings. You know, I remember myself, I would get high if I was depressed. I would get high if everything was going good. I would get high if things were just all right. Because I didn't know how to deal with my feelings. I didn't know how to live and deal with life on life's terms, just to be an accepted, normal person in society. I had to be different. I wanted to experience being high. And then I found out, once I became, I had similar feelings as Teddy had, that the depressed afterwards is such a depressant that I've even thought about killing myself. You know, and I come from a background of a strong family background. I've been to college and I hold a professional. I've been a professional in the work environment for a number of years. And what I found out is that we all know how to stop using. We've all stopped at different periods of time, but it's a matter of staying stopped.
Okay.
And that's where the problem comes in at.
Okay. We're going to have to take a break right now, but we will be back in just a minute to conclude our discussion, so please stay with us. There's a lot more to come.
Next on Newscap, some Baltimoreans.
About crack and cocaine, and we have a question from our studio audience.
That's what I want to know. How did crack affect you and your relationships that you've had?
Adam, Teddy, need one.
Well, coke. Well, with my relationships, I had a lot of my friends and my girlfriends. It was like, Adam, stop doing drugs. You know, drugs will hurt you. And then at that time, I wasn't high. And I would catch a feeling from it, but then after I get away from them, I'm like, well, now it's time to get high. It affected me with my family's relationship because I lost total communication because of the drugs.
Another question.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever. My question is pointed to Dr. and Ms. William. All right. When the people get so far gone on a drug, you know, I guess you can call it a burnout situation. I work in the area of literacy myself. Okay, I'd like to know, how do you direct them to Ms. Lillian for, you know, rehabilitation as far as getting them educated?
How do they get into a program?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, our opening, well, it's totally open. How you come in. We don't, some people are probated, paroled, some walking off the street, some are referred. We don't really make a difference of how a person comes in. Unfortunately, like I said before, we have had to close our intake as far as the long-term unit. But you can come in any way that you get there. If you have something, now this is not dealing with the cocaine unit. Dr. McDaniels, I guess, can say more on that.
Let me just, before we get into that a little bit further, let me just ask a question. What should friends and family and loved ones look for in terms of identifying that their loved one is in trouble?
Well, my mom is here, and she can give you a lot of identification of that about with me being in the drugs, because you become like I say, a cat where you hiding everything. You have nothing to say. You lying about where you're going to, who you been with, what you're doing, because I just felt totally apart in school.
Hubert and Teddy and Bill?
I would like to say to parents, hear what the kids are not saying.
Meaning what?
Meaning, as a parent, we know our children. And you hear, they say certain things, and you read between the lines. You have to really have your ears open and be aware. To be aware is to be alive. You must, parents, and knowing the height and the growth of cocaine addiction and just drug abuse as a whole, we must open our eyes and try to see past what we don't see or what we don't hear.
And, excuse me, I definitely want to say to the parents especially, and spouses, whatnot, be honest with yourself. When you see the changes and see the differences. Don't worry about, well, oh no, not my kid. Well, why would he want to steal when I give him everything? Or if it's a girlfriend, you know, well, he loves me enough to stop. Don't do that. Be honest with yourself. You know, the person is using, the person has a problem, the person needs help. Get the help, and that's it. And don't accept a lot of explanations.
I wanted to say that in terms of referral, there's a 800 number, 1-800-COCAINE. Mark Gold started that up in Fair Oaks, New Jersey, and they can refer people in the Baltimore area to programs around Baltimore. In terms of what you look for, I think we've touched on it. Number one, isolation. Number two, personality changes, and mood swings. Those are real key. So, you know, 1 minute somebody's themselves, and the next minute, you know, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde picture. Right. That's real key. And I think in general, when we look at our loved ones and we notice that they are not the same person and that their social habits and judgment are changing, those are real key indicators that something's interfering with life.
Do you think we will ever get the upper hand on drug addiction, cocaine addiction, crack addiction in this country?
No.
Adam, you're shaking your head no.
No. I feel as though we can put a decrease in it, but you can't stop it, because I'm having associates that used to tell me not getting high, younger than I am, and they're getting high now. It's like everybody's starting to do it.
We tried regulating with prohibition 40 years ago with alcohol, and we found out that you know, it's real hard to enforce that kind of behavior on people. It would be nice to think that we could and we will, but it looks like a real uphill battle.
Okay, we want to thank all of you for being with us today, sharing your stories and sharing such good information with us. Pardon me. We have to take a break right now, but we'll be right back with the newscast. Stay with us.
Separation of the races takes on a scriptural tone overseas, while charity begins at home in Baltimore. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Isisara Bay. In South Africa, about 1,500 conservative whites have decided to split from their religious home. It's the first break in the Dutch Reformed Church ranks in nearly 90 years and reflects the deep division gripping Afrikaners in South Africa. The 1,500 members voted yesterday at a closed meeting and emerged to announce the new Afrikaans Reformed Church, subtitled The Church of Christ Among White Afrikaners.
We believe that God created all human beings, and God in the same way created all different nations. And He wants them to be different, as far as we can see.
1.5 million people are members of the Dutch Reformed Church, including President Botha and nearly all of his cabinet. Last year's admission of black members and approval of interracial marriages caused yesterday's split. In national news, President Reagan is making a list and checking it twice in search of a Supreme Court nominee. On Friday, longtime Justice Lewis Powell announced his resignation from the nation's highest court. Powell, a moderate, was the swing vote on many historic decisions. He cited his age, 80, in September, and ill health as reasons for his immediate resignation. His retirement gives Reagan another chance to mold a more conservative court. A nominee is expected by the end of the week. Change is afoot again in the Burns mayoral campaign in Baltimore. After days of speculation, campaign president Raymond Haysbert announced on Tuesday he's stepping down from his post. Haysbert cited pressing responsibilities at his Park Sausage Company for the move, but he will remain as head fundraiser for the campaign. Some Baltimoreans have taken the adage, charity begins at home, to heart. The Associated Black Charities is new to our area, but it's already making its mark. With me today is Mary Demery, Executive Director of the Associated Black Charities, to tell us more about this organization. Good afternoon, Mary.
Good afternoon.
How and when did Associated Black Charities get started?
Associated Black Charities was formed in August of 1985, and it was an outgrowth of talks with the United Way of Central Maryland to direct more funds to the black community.
Tell us how the charity operates.
Essentially, we raise funds and then allocate those funds back to programs that serve a predominantly black clientele in the Central Maryland area.
Well, what's the procedure for applying, for allocating funds to the different organizations, and who gets funded?
Nonprofit organizations with a human service program are considered for funding after the submission of a proposal that is reviewed by volunteers that we have mobilized to review applications. We funded programs last year in the amount of over $400,000 in the areas of teen pregnancy, black-on-black crime, services to the elderly, and programs operated in religious, out of religious institutions.
How do you get the money for the funding? Where does it come from?
Our funds come from direct contributions from the community and a financial arrangement that we have with the United Way for a grant.
Well, what's your focus for the coming year?
Tomorrow, we will allocate over $425,000 to programs in the area of family health and survival, economic stability, teen pregnancy, programs operated out of religious institutions, and services to the elderly, and youth development.
It sounds like Associated Black Charities is moving along very well, but what can our viewers do to help?
The wheels of our organization only turn through volunteers. Our community can help us by volunteering and making direct financial contributions to Associated Black Charities.
And how can we find Associated Black Charities? You're listed in the phone book?
Yes, we're listed under Associated Black Charities.
Thank you, Mary. Much success on tomorrow's event and in the months and years to come. With me has been Mary Demery, Executive Director of Associated Black Charities. Thank you for joining us. It was a smash on Broadway for several seasons, launched many careers, and won numerous awards. Now Dreamgirls is back on the stage in New York. 3 new actresses portray the story of 3 young women who transform their lives for a shot at the spotlight. The new play is slightly different from the original, but the same dazzling costumes, songs, and dances still promise to light up the stage. If you missed it before, here's your chance to do yourself a favor and dream a little.
And all you've got to do is dream, and baby, we'll be there.
Under city-line skies, it's clear and pleasant with highs in the mid-80s to near 90 in the downtown area. That's Newscap for this week. Enjoy the rest of the day and the week ahead. I'm Isa Sarah Bay. Now back to Jackie and BT for more of Cityline.
Hi, I'm Harold Anthony. You know, every once in a while, a performer comes along whose rise to fame is considered to be inevitable by everyone who has a chance to hear the artist perform. Such is the case with Whitney Houston. Whitney's career got off to an early start. She began singing in her church choir and later performed in her mother, Sissy Houston's nightclub act. Eventually, Whitney's talents developed and she began sharing the spotlight with her superstar mom. While Whitney's vocal talents blossomed, so did her extraordinary beauty. She quickly became a sought-after model with photo spreads in such publications as Glamour, 17, Young Miss, and Cosmopolitan. Maybe Clive Andrews subbed up her talents best when he said, either you have it or you don't. And she definitely has it. You know, a few weeks ago during an entertainment page, I referred to Whitney as my fiancée. Although I said it jokingly, the phone lines at WJZ lit up. So let me take this opportunity to make it perfectly clear, Whitney Houston and I are not engaged. And furthermore, I couldn't marry Houston even if I wanted to. Anita Baker won't let me. With her latest hit, I Want to Dance with Some latest from one of the most soulful entertainers performing today. You know, I just got word that Whitney has been offered the lead in the movie version of Dreamgirls. I'll update you as details become available. On the local scene, tonight's the big night. Yes, Baltimore's the 12th annual Model of the Year contest sponsored by WWIN Radio. Travis Winky, who has made fashion his passion, is coordinating this gala event, and some of the best male and female models in Maryland, both amateur and professional, will compete for modeling scholarships and cosmetics from Revlon, as well as appearances in major fashion shows across the state. The event will be held at Morgan State University's Murphy Auditorium. Doors open at 6 p.m. and the show begins promptly at 7. If by chance there are still tickets available, they may be purchased at the door. If you want additional information, simply call 225-7755. And while you're in the ticket-getting mode, you should get seats for this year's WJZ Harbor Lights Music Festival. This year's lineup includes such major talents as Freddie Jackson, Najee, the Four Tops, and Dionne Warwick. There's also a jazz explosion starring Ramsey Lewis, Gene Carn, Grover Washington, Wynton Marsalis, and many, many more. To be sure that you get front row seats, call 625-1400. And with that, this season of the entertainment page is complete. I'll be back from time to time this summer with special editions featuring such artists as Anita Baker, Lionel Richie, Jody Watley, and more. So be sure to tune in. Until then, I'm Harold Anthony, hoping you all have a great week.
A little time to say a lot, other than I'm glad Harold didn't get Whitney. For those of you who would like more information on the drugs, crack and cocaine, and how to find help, WJZ-TV has several pamphlets available for your use, and you simply need to write the station here at Television Hill, Baltimore, Maryland 21211 in order to get a copy of these pamphlets. We'll be glad to send you one.
Right, and if you want more information about the XL program, XL Incorporated, you can call 788-2145. That's 788-2145 for additional information.
The motley crew gathered around us are our interns for this particular semester, and we want to thank them. They had a very large role. In fact, they produced today's television show, and we want to congratulate them on a good job.
Yes.
And
wish them a happy and safe summer and a productive summer as well.
And great careers in the future.
Right,
Thank you all.
we've enjoyed them so much.
And we've enjoyed this year too.
Yes, and guess what? This is our last live show for this season. As of next Sunday, City Line will be in reruns, and we call it the Best of City Line.
The Best of City Line. We have some good shows coming up, and next week we'll be talking about Black liberation theology and the crust theory of color confrontation. Two very interesting issues. They received a lot of response during the past year.
The crust theory of color confrontation and racism is a theory that's purported by Dr. Frances Welsing. So some of her fans in the audience would like to see that particular show again. Well, that's City Line for this particular season, and of course today.
That's right. We look forward to another year coming this fall. So stay with us and don't miss the Best of City Line. I'm B.T. Bentley.
I'm Jackie Hall. Have a good Sunday.
Good summer.
And summer.